welcome to another episode of the Life in General podcast. My name is Nick.
I'm Ian.
And it's funny, and when you like say your name normal, it kind of throws me off because I've gotten so used to like you entering a show and like almost
whispering.
Well, the last episode you whispered, but before that you've like Ian or some kind of crazy shit.
Right.
Like, so when you say your name normal, I'm like, it just kind of throws me off a little bit. But
that's the whole point, Nick.
I bet. It's funny though, because there for like a long time, it was like the opposite. I don't know why, but for a while I wasn't even like intentionally doing it, but I would say like my name kind of strange at the beginning of the show. And then you mentioned it one day, you were like, why do you do that? And I think that's when I kind of started noticing it. And then I obviously stopped doing it. And then you started doing it. So just like switch roles a little bit.
Sure. Why not?
So we've talked about conspiracies and stuff on this show multiple times. It's probably one of my favorite things to talk about. I know that, and I don't think I really even noticed it for a long time, that how much I really kind of enjoy how strange and crazy some of these conspiracies are. And we've talked about it a number of times. Like I said, episode 33, we did crazy conspiracy theories from the internet. And I think there was like a whole list of different things we talked about that time. Episode 36, it wasn't really like a conspiracy episode, but we talked about aliens. And on this episode, we're going to kind of touch on aliens a little bit. Episode 47, we talked about those. First time we talked about flat earthers. Episode 64 was like flat earthers part 2. Episode 71, we talked about presidential conspiracies. Episode 80, which was our 9/11 conspiracy episode, which I think is actually our most listened to episode.
Really?
Yeah. And
a lot of people believe in those conspiracies.
Yeah. The funny thing is I really don't buy in too many conspiracies. Because first off, it's like it takes way too many people to kind of get these conspiracies. Like, I don't know, you pick pretty much any kind of conspiracy. Pick the moon landing conspiracy, which is something we really haven't talked about a lot. But anyway,
yeah, we might have to do a whole show on that one.
Yeah, it's an idea. But how many thousands of people would it take to pull off the moon landing never happening and being videotaped in the Arizona desert? I mean, it'd take
in a studio.
Or in a studio. It'd be thousands of people involved in it.
Right.
So that's why a lot of those conspiracies, I think, even if there is some validity to it, would be really hard to pull off. And then the other conspiracy episode we did was episode 123. Even after 100, I think we stopped numbering the episodes. But so just a couple of episodes ago, we did like a conspiracy update show.
Yeah. So
if you're into conspiracies, go back and check out any of those shows. And while you're going back and checking things out, go check out the Vinyl Den on YouTube.
Nice little segue, Nick.
Nice segue.
Not really. If I wasn't part of the show, I would have turned you off for that. I'm like, click. But yeah, so go check out the Vinyl Den.
Yes, absolutely. Which, if you don't know, it's our YouTube channel. Has nothing to do with conspiracies. It's all about vinyl records and music. So go check it out. Yep. So we're going to talk like aliens, UFOs, and then there's a very specific Nazi UFO conspiracy that we're going to talk about, and kind of what really
that's really the only one I kind of looked up, honestly. Was because that was I didn't really know. I know there's been some talk of it, but I didn't really know there was specific. I guess the only notes I've got too. So,
and what kind of got me thinking about all that is trying to think how long ago it was. It wasn't too long ago, probably earlier this year, 2-3 months back. I was driving home from work one morning, and if you don't know, I get out of work at 3 a.m. So it's like me and just like some drunk people on the road and some semis.
Sounds safe to me.
Of course it does. So I was driving down the road, driving home, and I wasn't tired or anything like that. So it wasn't that I was like seeing anything. I was wide awake, listening to the radio, as I typically do driving home. And something kind of caught my eye above the road ahead of me. And it didn't look like it was like way off in the distance, like a satellite or anything like that. It was just a rather bright light, bright enough that it really caught my attention. And you know, it might have been, I don't know, I'm just guessing, a couple miles above the road in front of me. And I remember like looking around. There was no other cars on the road around me. There were no other cars like coming in an opposite direction. I've driven that stretch of road for, I mean, over 20 years. You know, ever since I've been driving down that way. And because it was actually not too far past the exit for your house. So it wasn't like, you know, way off down the road. So I know the landscape pretty well. I know where there are like satellite towers. Obviously, there's no like satellite towers above or cell phone towers above the road. There are some cell phone towers off to like the west side of the road, but nothing straight ahead. So I'm driving home, and I'm for a solid couple minutes. I'm just like looking at this, and I'm trying to think. Well, is this maybe a helicopter, or at first I thought it was just an airplane, but I thought it was like way too bright to be an airplane. And then so I'm watching this thing, and it's not moving. It's just a stationary bright light. And I'm driving down the road, and then it just disappears. And I was like, what the fuck was that? So the only thing I could really think of was it was, you know, a UFO or something like that. I mean, I had absolutely no other way to explain it.
Do you think you have a brain tumor?
No, I do not have a brain tumor.
Well, I mean, I'm just, you know, there's possibilities for everything, but you know, usually when you see something, sometimes you gotta look inward.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would assume, I mean, that's a possibility, but since I have no other signs or symptoms and haven't seen anything like that since then, I would have to say that's probably not the case.
Okay. Well, we could check that particular possibility off the list.
And actually, one of the first things I thought it might be was like a comet, because, you know, a lot of times you'll see a bright light, but then it's like a streak.
Right.
Now, is it possible
usually you
that
see it burning up, like breaking up and
stuff?
stuff.
Yeah. Now, is it possible that it was the rare chances that it was a comet heading directly at me to where I couldn't see the streak? Possibly something like that. I mean, it's another way of possibly explain it. But I mean, I
still think you would have noticed some movement.
I would think so too.
You know, even if it was coming directly at you, I don't. With the speed it would have been going, it would have probably not lasted as long as it did.
Yeah, because it was a solid. It was at least a solid like minute and a half. I was looking at this thing.
Okay.
But
well, I mean, minute and a half, maybe. I guess I was thinking it was more like 3 or 4 minutes.
Oh no! It was probably. I mean, in an instant like that, time is kind of funny because a lot of times you can, in certain situations, you could think it might be a really short period of time and it's actually a long period of time, or it could be the complete opposite. You could think it's a long period of time and it's really a short period of time. But
that's all perception.
Yeah. I was listening to a song at the time, and it didn't like, it was gone before the end of the song. So that's why I'm assuming, you know, a minute and a half, somewhere around there, that like minute to minute and a half. So it wasn't a long period of time. It was obviously long enough for me to like stare at this thing on the road though.
Right. Well, it's hard to say.
And it's not the first time I've seen things like that too.
Right.
When I was younger, I'm trying to think how old I was, probably 8 or 9. Because we were still living in our first house when I was growing up. My grandparents live up on a big lake, a little further up in northern Michigan. And I remember, like, I don't even know why I was doing it, but I was like, my mom and I were looking out the window. Oh, because it's probably out towards the lake at night. So it's, you know, 9:30 at night or whatever. So it's dark outside. Mm-hmm. And I don't know which one of us noticed it at first, but we noticed 2 lights up in the sky. And they were moving in irregular patterns. Like they would make sharp movements, you know, and we watched them for probably a solid 10 minutes or more. And then all of a sudden they both just like vanished. But there are Air Force bases and things like that, not necessarily in that area, but close enough that it could be something that they were testing out. I don't know why they would test things out at night, maybe, especially since they were bright enough to be noticeable.
Yeah, but it was a rural area, not
very rural area. Yeah,
we're talking no light pollution either. So you
correct.
Pretty good view of the sky.
I used to love it because we used to sit on their front porch, and I mean, you could sit there. The sky was clear enough that you could see satellites passing overhead.
Right.
So I mean, I've never seen a sky like that before. Just crystal clear, like you said, no light pollution. So yeah, it was something that would definitely stand out to you.
Yeah. But that being said, I mean, as a possibility, it could have been some military experiments or military vehicles, because if they're trying to keep it on the low key in an area that's not heavily populated, it would make sense that they would do it at night. But I don't know. I've never seen anything that's
questionable.
I've seen things that, like, for a second I'm like, oh, what is that? And I watch it for a minute and I'm like, oh no, it's just a plane, or nope, just a helicopter, or whatever.
When I saw that over the road a couple of months back, that was kind of my first thought, was it was either a helicopter or an airplane, because we have helicopters that fly through the area pretty regularly because we have 2 level 1 trauma centers in the vicinity.
Right.
So it's not uncommon for helicopters to be flying overhead, especially at all hours of the night.
Right.
And I don't remember. So when I leave the hospital in the morning, I walk by the helipads. So I don't remember if the helicopters were even there that morning or not. But that was kind of my first thought, was wondering if it was something like that. But then A, it wasn't moving, and then B, it kind of just disappeared.
Yeah, there was no accident up ahead, so there wouldn't make any sense for the helicopter to have been hovering there anyway. If it was a survival flight helicopter or a medvac type helicopter, it wouldn't be hovering. It would be moving and going to where it's supposed to be.
Correct. Going. But if it was flying towards me, it might have had the perception of not
perhaps,
moving.
But it wouldn't disappear on you.
No. That kind of got me thinking of UFOs and that kind of thing, because UFOs have been around, at least the idea of UFOs have been around for 70 plus years.
Right. Well, you can theoretically you can go back even farther, because if you talk about the what was formerly known as the History Channel, now is just the Ancient Aliens Channel. They say there's.
I don't see. There for a long time they had Ancient Aliens on like all the time, but not so much.
I stopped
anymore.
watching it because of that. I won't even go to the History Channel because of that. But they're, from what they're saying, that there's hieroglyphics with UFOs in them, and I see what they're showing me, but that I don't read hieroglyphs, so I don't understand. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. But
I think it's hard to kind of make that connection. Just because
they don't seem to have any trouble doing it.
Well, yeah, because to us, it looks like it could be a UFO,
right?
But to the people thousands of years ago that drew the damn things, it could be something completely different.
Could be a pot, like something with food. Because
I think generally
round, it doesn't mean.
I think generally when they see those kind of images, they're also generally with strange looking drawings of humanistic creatures.
Yeah,
I think it's where they kind of make the connection.
Well, they anthropomorphized their deities a lot back then, so it would, of course they're they would be humanoid looking, but they were really their gods or spiritual entities. So I don't know. That a show like that I can see being on Sci-Fi Channel. I can see it being on even on Discovery, maybe a late night something, but being on the History Channel, I lost all respect for the History Channel.
Well, everything is like that though, Ian. Look at TLC, for instance. That was TLC stands for The Learning Channel.
Used to stand for the Learning Channel. I don't
Now
think
now it's just like nonstop reality TV.
Yeah. And not even good. I mean, well, not that there's such a thing as good reality TV, but
no, there really is.
That's where you're gonna find like My 600-Pound Life and shit like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
starting to lose hope in humanity with all this shit.
Because it's really interesting because TLC used to be nothing but educational programming. So I mean, it's like, I don't know. I think TV in general has kind of gone down the drain, but
for the most part, you've got to try harder.
That's for an episode that we've talked about before.
Yeah.
I think we talked about a couple months ago how much my disdain for reality TV nowadays.
Yeah. Well, I never really enjoyed reality TV, but yes, that was an episode we did fairly recently.
Yeah.
Maybe been one of the last episodes you did before the quarantine.
It might have been. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look. Yeah. But as far as like UFOs, I know that a lot of interest kind of peaked in last, June. So the last couple of months, because in mid-April of this year, the U.S. Navy released video of 3 unidentified aerial phenomena, is what they called it. And these videos weren't new. I mean, they've been circulated, several times over the years, but each time that the videos kind of stirred up conversation, the U.S. government would refuse to authenticate the videos. And, it all kind of changed over the last 18 to 24 months, probably. And the government finally, well, first they just kind of confirmed the existence of some videos, but they still refused to authenticate those, but they finally came out and released them themselves, and they're the same damn videos. You still there, Ian?
Yeah, I'm still here. Oh, okay. You froze a little bit. I just didn't want to move until you unfroze. But yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the official video that they posted, but I've seen several Air Force photographed things going on that were unofficial, that were
but it's
whatever.
At least the 3 videos that I saw that the Navy released, it's the same ones I've seen before. It's just they always would just, there was a refusal to kind of say what they were. Now that they come out and said it, I don't know. It's
well, there's still there's a misconception too with the general public that an unidentified UFO does not necessarily mean aliens. It just means that it's identified and it's flying.
Exactly.
And it appears to be an object.
Exactly.
So
the interesting thing I think about these videos is I saw a video from, I want to say it was 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years back, but it's a video of a Navy spokesman who was being asked about these kind of UFO videos. And he said he couldn't speak further on it because my audio is messing up on me. But
he froze a little bit there too.
But he said that if he elaborated on it, it could cause exceptionally grave damage to the national security of the United States, whatever that means.
Yeah, I mean, what does that mean? How could?
And that's kind of the question.
Let's just say theoretically that 2025, we get confirmation that there's intelligent life in the universe, and they have visited us.
Yeah.
For whatever, however, they show up and they're it's literally it's flying over New York City, but then they go away. They're not hostile, and it's not like an Independence Day situation.
Yeah. Or a to-serve man kind of issue.
Yeah. Right. Well, I'm thinking they come and say hi. We're here, but then for the most part leave us alone.
Yeah.
The very fabric of our society is going to change so drastically overnight that there will be problems for sure.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. Because, I mean, regardless of where you fall on spiritual beliefs and all that other stuff, the existence of aliens puts a damper on our own ideas of the universe, at least as far as philosophy
Even though I think
and
it's
religion
probably
goes.
widely, I think it's pretty widely accepted the fact that we're not alone in the universe.
You would think, but it's also should be widely accepted that the Earth is not a fucking plate, flat plate, and that's we still have there are people who are in government who believe the Earth is only 6,000 years old. So you have to understand that there's a dynamic there because you can't. It's difficult. It's not impossible, and it will probably not be a problem once the things settle. But it'll be hard to square that circle of how scriptures, whether it be biblical, Torah, Quran, it doesn't matter, how to square that circle, because they can't, generally speaking, as they stand now, they can't work together. We can make them work together. We've done it with many other things.
I mean, I don't see why they couldn't work together, but
yes, but you're not a fundamentalist. You're not a Shiite Muslim. You're not an Orthodox Jew.
Well,
these
could
are
be
groups,
though.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that these groups are going to be the ones that are going to be the pushback.
Regardless of what happened, there would be.
And it's going to make people question their beliefs. It would have to some degree. It would have to make a vast majority of the planet. Yeah. Because the vast majority of the planet is spiritual of some kind.
I think I don't think there'd be a vast majority of people, though. I think there would be a percentage, but I think a vast majority of the world already accepts that there's other life out there, though.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not a vast majority, but a majority of the planet
I think
does.
you might be overestimating it a bit, but
I think a majority of the planet does.
To be fair to your point, I would say maybe not a vast majority, but a majority of people are going to accept it. There's not going to be any question about it. If that were to happen, they're going to embrace it, or they're going to reject it, but reject it out of, well, they can't come here. Typical human isolationist theory, thinking. But I think I really do believe there is going to be a bit of a crisis of self when that day happens, when that day comes. If it happens soon, right now.
Yeah.
If it happens 100 years from now, maybe not, because 100 years from now, people will be different. Yeah. But I think if it were to happen in our lifetime, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be questioning everything that they think they know about everything.
I think that the interesting thing is about this, the spokesperson's comment about the national security of the U.S. That kind of leads me to believe more so that it's not like alien-based UFOs, that it's more like military-based UFOs.
Which ties into some of that Nazi stuff.
Well, and not necessarily. I mean, just the fact that, I mean, even if you were to say, even if the U.S. government came out and said that Canada was flying unidentified intelligent aircraft over the United States, people would be freaking out, even if it was just Canada.
Right. But what I was pointing out is that, and I mean, we'll get to it, but anything that the Nazis may have been working on as far as UFOs and aliens would have come to us anyway. We would have gotten that technology. We would have gotten the
possibly.
Well, we got all their nuclear weapons. We got all that tech. We got their.
You gotta think if they're
fighter jet tech.
Let's say they're working on UFO technology in East Germany. We wouldn't have that technology. Russia would. So
right. Well, and
who's to say that those unidentified flying objects, which is what UFO stands for, is I mean it could be Russian aircraft flying over the U.S. Then you're really talking about national security issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but if we're talking like Cold War time, because I don't know the story of this person, the spokesperson, but is he talking about current issues?
Well, these are the videos, the 3 videos that were released.
Oh, just those 3
are relatively new, within the last decade.
Right. Okay. I thought it was more like a broad.
No, because
broad
you can tell from the
spectrum.
videos that they're not super old.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Like I said, I just I don't know. Like, no matter what happens, if with a day when that day comes, and it will come
Eventually, at some point, you would assume it would. Either them coming to us or us going to them.
I think it's more likely that once we reach a certain technological point, they'll come to us.
Maybe.
I do. At the very least, they'll come to us to make sure that we don't advance too fast and start polluting space outside.
Oh, because we'll do that also.
Right. Well, but my point is that once we reach that point, whatever that magic point is, just most likely to be moving outward.
Uh-huh.
They're not going to want us to be moving outward unless they know what our intentions
are.
So they'll make themselves known at that point as a way to either bring us back down or at least watch our progress.
The kind of the interesting thing is about these videos and the confirmation from the Navy is Tom DeLonge, who, if you don't know who he was one of the founding members of the band Blink-182, he was instrumental in getting these videos confirmed by the government. Because he created, back in 2014, I think it was, he created a company called To the Stars, which at that time primarily focused on just kind of like entertainment. I know his band Angels and Airwaves, one of their studio albums was released through To the Stars, and it kind of focused on like books and graphic novels that all kind of was around the kind of the UFO topic. And in 2017, To the Stars folded into a new company by the same name, which was led by Jim Semovan, who was a former, I think that's how you say his last name, but he was a former senior intelligence officer with the CIA, and was also joined by Harold Putoff, who was an American engineer and parapsychologist. Not exactly sure what a parapsychologist does, but
parapsychologist is someone who studies paranormal activity, whether it be
I kind of
ghosts, UFOs, aliens, Bigfoot, all that stuff.
Because
it's not really a science.
It's not real science. It was kind of what I was getting at. But anyway,
you can get a degree in it in most colleges and universities.
But so the three of them kind of got together and created a public benefit corporation, and their main focus is investigating UFOs. So that's where like a lot of the stuff has come from, is they've kind of pushed in one way or one form or another, pushed the government to acknowledge these videos and some other stuff exists,
right,
and kind of create more of a conversation about it.
I guess I mean, it's fine and it's great that they're doing what they want to do and pushing or getting movement on their area, but it doesn't really change anything. All it does is just say, we picked up something.
Well, that's not the only stuff they're doing, though. They've got one of the projects that To the Stars is working on. They've got a science and aerospace division that's working on an electromagnetic vehicle. So there's other stuff that they're working on outside of just because they've got different divisions inside, because they still have an entertainment division also. So it's their primary focus is on UFOs and things like that, but they have other divisions that are working on other things that could have huge impacts, like an electromagnetic vehicle.
Right. Now the entertainment side of that isn't funding the projects, right? Seems to me like that wouldn't be enough to fund.
No. They've got private funding and things like that.
Is that
and it's funny that
nonprofit?
No. It's a no. It's definitely for profit.
Oh, okay.
Because it's actually classified as a public benefit corporation, which is kind of functions as a nonprofit, but also functions in a way that allows them to maximize profits from the company.
I see. So they're not a tax-free organization, but
No.
they can be donated to as a charity or as a public. Okay.
Yeah.
It's really more for the tax reasons tax reasons for the donors rather than the company.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just you said that, but it didn't occur to me what that meant. So that's why.
When I was looking up all this stuff, I didn't understand what a public benefit corporation was either. That's why I had to actually look it up and figure out what exactly we're trying to accomplish.
Because most nonprofits, every nonprofit for the most part is a public benefit thing,
Yeah.
By nature.
Mm-hmm.
There's usually charities or organizations.
Something else, yeah.
But anyway.
But I don't know. It's just interesting, some of the stuff that they're working on and have kind of accomplished. But the funny thing is, if you, I don't know how long ago the interview was conducted, but Tom DeLonge was on Joe Rogan's podcast a while back, and it was like a 2-hour conversation where if you didn't know who Tom DeLonge was, you would have thought he was fucking crazy. Because he goes off on these like long tangents about how he like had secret meetings with intelligence officers inside the United States government and all this other crazy shit. And it's watching it, I was like, I mean, I didn't watch the whole thing. I probably watched a half an hour of it, but the whole time I'm like, you sound fucking crazy.
Well, and
but I guess people like that in that situation, even if a lot of the stuff that they work for comes true, you always have that until it becomes popular in theory or an idea or principle that you always kind of look crazy, I guess.
Right. Yeah, no, I was gonna say that, but I mean, he could also be very crazy. I mean, he could be out of his fucking mind.
He could be,
but
it's he's been big into like UFOs and stuff like that since he was young. I mean, even some of Blink's early music had like songs where it kind of incorporated some UFO themes and stuff to it. So it's not entirely, I mean, it's something that obviously has been known about him for a while, but
right.
It was very interesting. But anyway,
yeah,
that kind of leads us into the whole UFO Nazi kind of conspiracy.
Let me lead with that because, like I said, I only have the one particular story.
Okay.
But there's like not two sides to it, but there's two separate dynamics to it.
Okay. I'll try to fill in where I can.
Right. I guess there is it's not there anymore. It's closed off, but basically a huge underground complex built by the Nazis in Poland. I forgot the exact square meters because it was large, small city size underground.
Okay.
And they were doing experiments there with possibly zero what is it 0 point energy, things like that, but also speculated it's basically, to some people, it's considered the Area 51 of Nazi Germany.
Okay.
So flying saucers, experimenting with anti-gravity, all basically reverse engineered from alien technology that was found by the Nazis.
Yeah.
But what caught my attention to it was the Nazi Area 51. I guess there's History Channel documentaries about it. So who knows? I guess, is it really a conspiracy theory? I don't know. But so I did watch one video. It was just a short video. It was a clip from a History Channel episode. And they were talking about all kinds of just technology that should not exist, especially 1944, 1945, specifically with flying vehicles. That, again, reverse engineered from alien tech. The other part of that was that there's some who speculate that they weren't testing UFOs, but they were testing time travel there.
That'd be interesting.
Because
I did not see that part of it.
The commander of that base was apparently intending to defect. Now, this is near the very end of the war, and he was attempting to defect because of this time travel thing. It would have been bad if Hitler had gotten it, because even though the Russian army was moving in, basically taking over, Germany was losing the war.
Yeah.
If Hitler had used this technology, it would have obviously changed the war. Everything would have gone the other way. So basically, it was like the Nazis had a wild card, and he was going to defect, but then he ended up disappearing altogether, like completely. And again, they speculate that he found it easier to just steal the technology. So basically went into time. That was one that I found the most
interesting.
That was a part of it I found more fascinating, actually. Because no one knows what happens to him to this day.
Really?
The more likely explanation is that someone suspected he was going to defect and he was shot.
He was killed, yeah.
But, that technology, that whole base, like I said, was supposedly huge, like massive underground. It was described as an industrial in Poland, yeah.
Huh.
It was described as an industrial complex. So it was quite large, but it was all underground. Now, I forgot what they called it, but there's actually these like pillars. It's like a circular pillar thing.
Uh-huh.
That still stands, where apparently the center, if you go down from there, the center of the complex would have been. Because in the video they were showing the interviewer and this guy talking about it in this circular stone.
So it's not part of the conspiracy that this building existed. It's pretty well.
Something was there, yeah. Something was there. But whether or not it was this massive underground complex, or just a underground, laboratory,
or they had or they had the intentions to build something down there and started it and then never did anything with it.
Right. So, like I said, the time travel element of it actually fascinated me more than the aliens. Although the speculation is that the technology came from aliens no matter what. It was time travel technology that had been reverse engineered from alien tech. But still, they had the thing that they had, and there's two sides to it. It was called the Bell. They called it the Bell. And it was either the anti-gravity flying contraption, or it was the time machine. Okay. So I guess it just depends on who you talk to.
I know
theory is
a lot stronger. A lot of the sightings throughout World War II and in post World War II, shortly after there, a lot of the depictions and descriptions described a bell-looking saucer.
Right. So that could be where the bell thing came from too. But they actually specifically said that the bell was here, and that the question is whether or not the bell was the UFO technology, like the flying technology, or the time travel technology. Yeah. Because they talked to in the video I was watching, it was like 5 minutes, 5-6 minutes. They talked to another guy who said that based on the way the bell is described, it wouldn't be very practical for flight. It could go up and down, but it's not aerodynamic enough, at least to travel on a terrestrial plane. Mm-hmm. It could travel in space, no problem, but on a terrestrial plane, it would be way too non-aerodynamic for it to be maneuverable as a weapon. And now, obviously, if they're building this, Nazi Germany's building this in the 1940s, they're building it to be a weapon. So,
absolutely.
So it wouldn't have been practical as a flying contraption, as a flying device. So that's where the time travel device, I guess in that sense makes more sense. I don't know if I go that far as to say it makes sense, but because there's just no evidence for it,
I know that the conspiracy that I was looking up and reading about really, it was kind of interesting because obviously it talked that kind of same kind of time frame that you were talking about. They said that the Nazis were creating this advanced aircraft prior to. Reports were from like 38 is kind of like the earliest report of them working on it, and then all the way through and through the end of the war, and that there's actually surviving aircraft stored in secret underground bases in Antarctica and South America.
Okay, I've heard that too. Yeah, I didn't come across too much of that in my, other than I think I actually did watch a full video about that. That Hitler had bases in Antarctica.
Well, I know that the Nazis did claim territory there.
Okay.
And even so, in 1938, actually sent an expedition to the area in Antarctica.
Okay, yeah, that was the one video I watched. This was separate from this discussion because I watched this months ago. Because I'm kind of fascinated by Antarctica in general, just because there's a lot of mystery surrounding being able to go there, because it's mostly just research bases even today.
Well, that and the entrance to the inside to the hollow earth is there also.
Right. Well, I'm just looking at it on the surface of what is known.
Yeah.
What is rationally known. And
I mean, the fact that the earth is hollow and there's a second sun inside the earth is not something rationally known.
Not to me, no. No, because
still my favorite conspiracy theory.
I know. I trust the science, and the science says that our Earth is not hollow. It's a massive rock with an iron core that that is molten and is whatever. But there is still a lot of mystery surrounding the Antarctic. And again, specifically to the extent that it's a large continent, but even parts where there's nobody there, there's restrictions on travel there.
Yeah.
Not that anyone would really want to go there because it's not very hospitable.
There'd be no reason to be there.
Yeah, but you can't go there even if you did want to, and I don't really understand.
I would assume that those travel restrictions are in place probably because of how much scientific study is done there.
Maybe. But even in areas where those studies aren't done, and it's international. These are international rules. These are not just U.S. rules or with German, whatever. These are international rules. These are like UN rules. So it makes me wonder what's going on there, and it's all real world stuff, I'm sure. But so I've watched several videos on the Antarctic.
If there is a secret military base there, I mean, it'd be a perfect reason to restrict travel there, because then you can kind of do whatever you want and no one's going to even know about it.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. But go back to what you were saying about the Nazis, because I definitely, like I said, I definitely watched a video where the Nazis had set up bases there.
Yeah.
Again, this alien tech stuff going on there. But go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's pretty widely accepted that the Nazis were conducting research into advanced propulsion technology during the war. I mean, that's pretty well understood. Right. And there's quite a few of these UFO sightings during World War II. The Allied forces actually called them Foo Fighters.
Yeah, they mentioned that in the video.
And they believed that these Foo Fighters were prototype enemy aircraft designed not necessarily to like fight Allied aircraft, but kind of to disrupt Allied aircraft through electromagnetic disruption, kind of similar to what the electromagnetic pulse weapons that we have today.
Okay.
So kind of like through that same way to kind of disrupt the aircraft. But all the reports during World War II were, as far as I know, they were all like made by military personnel, as far as like Foo Fighters or or UFO sightings or things like that. It wasn't like people on the ground or civilians. It was people that actually were involved in the war or in the planes.
Right.
Yeah. The first like actual report about the German flying saucers was made in early 1950 in a Italian newspaper. And it was a former minister of national economy under Mussolini claimed that these discs were designed and studied in Germany and Italy. I think as early as like 1942, 41,
Okay.
42, that they were working on those. But I mean, it's interesting, but it doesn't necessarily prove anything, you know.
Right. Well, and here's my problem with it, intellectually speaking, not, or well, at least my thought process is, if regardless of where they were as far as reverse engineering or studying this technology, it's obvious that they had mastered enough of it for these things to be tested, and yet they still lost.
Exactly.
They still lost the war.
That's kind of where I was going. Was even if they had this technology and they were able to fly it, they weren't able to use it in such a way to change the course of history.
Right, but they were able to at least master it enough to make something that was testable.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like going to Mars. We can think about it, but we don't have any way to test a way to do it yet.
Yeah.
So until that happens, we can't even really plan it out. Whereas if we have vehicles that we can push to the speed limits of space that are physically possible,
yeah,
so that we can get there in 6 months rather than 18 months or whatever the time frames are. Once that technology is tested and being tested, it's not too long from that point to us actually doing it. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
if they're testing anti-gravity, that means they've mastered anti-gravity. They've created something, whether it's a bell-shaped vehicle or a platform that can do anti-gravity. Therefore, they can still use it somehow. They can still weaponize it in some way, especially if you've got the British Army on one side of you, the Soviet Army on the other side of you, and the U.S. Army on both sides helping them. You know, you're going to try and use that technology in some way, and they didn't.
Or instead, you know, instead of killing yourself in your bunker, hop in one of these things and take off.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely people out there who think that Hitler did not kill himself.
Yeah. There's some photos from Argentina. I think it was Argentina.
I've seen the photos
that from like the late 50s, early 60s, that looks a lot like Adolf Hitler.
Yeah. Well, there's been, you know, there's been sightings of Elvis. There's still people who think Tupac's still alive. There's people who think Jim Morrison was still alive. He faked his death.
People think Tupac is still alive because he's released more music since he's been dead than what he did when he was alive. But the
Coltrane is too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It was interesting though, because in 1953, I think it was, there was a Canadian aircraft company. I don't remember the name of it, but they announced that they had been developing a circular jet aircraft, and they estimated the speed at about 1,500 miles per hour. And a German engineer at that time claimed that he had been working with the Nazis during the war on such a design. So I mean, it's like over and over again over the course of the past 70 years, there's been all these people that I worked with the Nazis or had contact with the Nazis when they were working on these objects.
To be fair, the Nazis they were flying jet engine airplanes during World War II.
Yeah.
At the same time that the British and the American Air Forces were still doing prop planes, you know, the Spitfires and all that. So there is something to be said about that. But then again, German engineering is universally known as, you know, high end, even today.
Even today.
So they're, you know, going back to that, if German engineering is pretty high tech to begin with, and they were flying jet engines. They were jet engine airplanes, jet airplanes. near the end of the war. They weren't practical though. Again, it was almost to the point where they had overstepped their bounds, because if you've got a jet-powered airplane that's going super fast, sure, it can't be shot down, but it's going so fast it can't shoot the slow-moving enemy targets either, because they didn't have the computer technology for precision that we have now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was impractical, but it didn't stop. Again, that's a situation where they had the technology. It wasn't perfect, but they still used it as a weapon. They still weaponized it, had it out in the field. And I don't know.
It's interesting though. To kind of tie it all together though. I don't have this in my notes. I just pulled it up actually right before we started recording. And there's this guy, he's a German Holocaust denier, first off. There's another crazy. There's another crazy conspiracy right there. Yeah. But guy's name is Ernest Zundel, I think is how you say his name.
Okay.
He started a publishing company in the 70s, but and I guess the publishing company initially catered to like the UFO community, but in the books that he wrote himself, he claimed that the flying saucers were Nazi secret weapons launched from underground bases in Antarctica. Same thing. And the Nazis had hoped to conquer Earth and possibly the planets. So obviously, according to him, the Nazis knew we weren't alone, I guess. Obviously, because they had alien technology. But the interesting thing is about this Ernest Zundel guy. He sold for $1,000 each seats on an exploration team to locate the polar entrance to the hollow Earth.
No. Awesome. It's like you can't make this shit up, but it's made up. I mean, it's like you can't make up the fact that people actually believe it. It's just crazy.
I thought that was great though. It's like UFOs and hollow Earth. Here we go. Because that's one of the things about the hollow Earth is they think that's where aliens come from and UFOs.
Right. Well, that's where the Nazis are living now.
Exactly. So it all makes sense that that's where the UFOs and stuff would be.
Right. Huh.
I thought that was a nice little way to end it.
I forgot to mention, because I didn't write it down, but I forgot to mention that the other theory is with that Area 51, the Nazi Area 51, is that there's the two sides. Well, there's two sides. There's three sides, technically. There's the side where it's just alien tech trying to make UFOs and flying devices. There's the other side where it's time travel tech from aliens, again, reverse engineered. And then there's another side where it's both, and not all the Nazi hierarchy was all aliens in disguise.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, they weren't
kind of like humans. The lizard people.
Essentially, I think they didn't use that description,
that phrase,
but the implication was there that
interesting.
The whole Third Reich basically was controlled by aliens, and it was a plot.
Huh.
But again. If they were able to get to this planet, to Earth, have the technology to make themselves look like us, and start experimenting with our technology, with their they already had the technology. They got here.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they just? And then if their goal was malicious, they would have just taken over. I can see them maybe disguising themselves, but disguising themselves as the Third Reich is fine. And then they come out with laser weapons and
exactly.
True flying saucers, and they would have the atomic bomb wouldn't have been a theory in 1941 when it started, when they started working on it. It would have been, they would have had it.
It would have been old technology to them.
It would have been, exactly. They would have been like, shit, our people were using that 2,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago. Let's bring out one of those, whatever that we call them, and bomb that city. The one with the where the gorilla climbed on the building. Because to them, they might think that actually happened. They didn't know.
But that's kind of all I had, man. I thought it was kind of interesting.
I like the conspiracy episodes too. They're fun. They're fun.
But anything else you want to add before we wrap it up, man?
No. I was just gonna say they're fun, but on the flip side of that, it's kind of scary that we live in a world where this stuff is believed by some people.
I think a lot of it's because of the internet, but
Well, you can't blame the internet for all of it because a lot of this shit's been going around.
It's
long
been
before.
Oh, absolutely. But I think it's reached the scales of believability because of the internet.
Yeah, the internet has given it a much broader platform.
Yeah.
Before you had to just buy the books and go to the seminars and stuff like that, but now you can just go to YouTube.
Yeah,
that's where I find all my shit.
Yeah,
I don't believe any of it, but I just like to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, or you can, and if you go on YouTube, you could check out the Life in General on YouTube, and you can check out the Vinyl Den on YouTube.
Yes, and I'll tell you what, we don't peddle any conspiracies. We talk about other people's conspiracies. Yeah. We don't peddle our own.
No, we don't. No. But anything else, man?
No, I'm good.
All right. Yeah. Well, any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@ligpodcast.us. We're on Twitter @ligpod. Check us out on Facebook, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, obviously, if you're watching us on YouTube already. We're on iHeartRadio, just about everywhere else. If you can go leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, it'd be greatly appreciated. If you're watching us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, subscribe down below, check out all of our past episodes, and go on the Vinyl Den and do the same on there. Right, Ian?
Absolutely. No, I'm not going to do it. Why would I agree with you on that? That's stupid. Why'd you ask my opinion? Hey, I've been pretty even keel this episode.
Is that what it is?
I had to throw a little Discord into the mix. So.
All right, man. Well, that's all I got.
Yep. Talk to y'all later.
Peace.
Play my role, let me tell you about it. This shit right here, man, I'm about it. Only real niggas reside around me. Yo, old lady, drop a guard around me. Dip like I know you can, bitch. Show me the ropes like we in the ring. Got you two GoPros, you wanna hang. Shoulder to shoulder, them niggas basic. You know I won't lie. You know that I ain't for that fuck shit. You niggas alright, but I'm way better and she love it. Know that y'all sick as fuck. Here go this tissue, bruh. We taking the dub, hoping you get you some. This hit like a pick me up. She taking my drugs. Know they see the sign. That's some dollar signs. Know they sick as fuck. Know they sick as fuck. Tell them get well soon. Tell them get well soon. Know you sick as fuck. Get well soon. Oh shit. Watch out, you the god, Billy. Oh shit. Right now, and I'm smiling in your face, bitch. With a gold smile, you should probably make placement. To your eye, niggas sick as fuck. Standing with niggas who down for that party. Who down for some bitches who showing their bodies. Swear to God, nigga, this